growing up, my parents had some rentals, but my pops being my pops, he did everything old school. I'm not paying a property manager. I'm not paying anybody to fix things. 11 o'clock on a Saturday night, just getting home from going out with the family, boom, sewer line breaks at one of the rentals. I remember this clearly. And that day, he was like, I was like his little right hand. So he was like, you got to come with me and we're going to go fix this. We're there till 3 o'clock in the morning. And I told myself, I am never doing this ever. I'm never being a real estate investor. I'm never having rentals. And then come to find out, I'm like, tables really turned, and we started really thinking about it back in like 2020. And from there, it only took off. And, never say never.
Listening to the Real FI podcast, where we discuss time-tested tricks, techniques, and strategies for pursuing financial independence today, so that we can enjoy a better tomorrow. Financial independence isn't about getting rich quick. It's about cultivating a foundation to grow financially, mentally, physically, and spiritually. Let's figure out how to kick the 9 to 5. Here are your hosts, Patrick and James.
How's it going, everybody? And welcome back to the Real FI podcast. I'm your host, Patrick McGrath, with my co-host, James Ripion. How's it going today, James?
How's it going, everybody? For those joining us on YouTube, you're going to see I got a new background going. So we're going to add some color and some life into these videos. So I'm excited to bring some heat today.
Way to go, James. Well, we've got two great guests today. We've got an awesome couple who's doing a lot of creative things out there in the real estate space, and we cannot wait to dive in and learn a ton of new stuff about creative financing, creative deal making, and how they are helping other people get into deals. We got Mike and Jay. How's it going today, guys?
What's up, guys?
We're good.
Thanks so much for having us. Honestly, it's honestly a real honor to be on here, and that you guys asked us to. So I wanted to thank you for having us. We're super excited.
Well, we appreciate you guys coming on. And I think we can get this kicked off and started by you just giving us a little bit of background about yourselves. Tell us about yourselves individually, and then maybe let us know how you guys ended up finding each other.
Ladies first.
Absolutely. So, was mentioned, my name is Jay. And we met in college, and couples moved in together, whatnot, and we kind of had this interest in real estate and kind of looking at what that entails, especially living in Philadelphia, because as we know, Philadelphia and gentrification is a big thing. So we moved out, we moved in together, and we were like, wow, look at all this gentrification. We want a piece of the pie. So,
so like Jay said, we met in college. Graduating, we both went right into like corporate America. Mm-hmm. Jay was a real estate paralegal, and I was an accountant. We graduated college in 2018. Yeah. So we worked in the corporate world up until actually June of this past year. So we started this while we were working and everything, and realized that it was not for us. Me, super hyper guy. Like, I cannot sit behind a desk all day. And I quickly realized that being an accountant is doing exactly that. So that did not work out well.
I connect with that so much. My former life and somewhat present to this day still being an attorney. And I think, being an attorney, being an accountant, very similar things. You're behind a desk all day, not getting around doing fun things, getting out of your chair, going to see cool properties all the time. So that's definitely something that motivated me as well. So I can kind of connect with you there on that aspect.
Yeah, it's being an attorney, man. A couple of buddies of mine are studying to be attorneys. Bless you.
I was there. Yeah. I was a paralegal, and I thought about becoming an attorney for a long time. And while being in the corporate world, I was like, yeah, this isn't for me.
We honestly just figured, growing up, my parents had some rentals, but my pops being my pops, he did everything old school. I'm not paying a property manager. I'm not paying anybody to fix things. 11 o'clock on a Saturday night, just getting home from going out with the family, boom, sewer line breaks at one of the rentals. I remember this clearly. And that day he was like, I was like his little right hand. So he was like, you got to come with me and we're going to go fix this. We're there till 3 o'clock in the morning. And I told myself, I am never doing this ever. I'm never being a real estate investor. I'm never having rentals. And then come to find out, I'm like, tables really turned, and we started really thinking about it back in like 2020. And from there, it only took off. And, never say never.
So what happened in 2020 that operated as the switch for you guys to make you think like, wow, we really need to get into this now? Because 2020 happens, COVID, the world's on fire, everything's crazy. It seems like an insane time to decide to get into real estate, but looking back, it was the most opportune time and people really succeeded when they got in at that moment. So what clicked for you guys in 2020 to really get you onto this path?
So we moved from our apartment. It was like a high-rise building. We were luxury living, and we were like, we need to save money. So what did? We cut expenses. But then when we cut expenses, that's right around the time we moved in, and we were like, wait, hold on, we're saving $100. That's it.
Yep.
So like, what's another way that we can make money?
Yep. And being in Philly, especially in a neighborhood that we live within 5 blocks of where we live. We lived in like 3-4 different places in the past 3 years, but there is a ton of construction. And honestly, we started working from home right around, I think, January of 2020. We closed, right? January of 2020.
Our first rental. Yep.
Yep. So January 2020 is when we really started working from home, and we saw everything coming up. So at that point, and at that moment in time, we were like, you know what? Like Jay said, let's just start looking into this. Like, what's the best way and the fastest way and easiest way we can make money without having to work, right? So thinking about how we can rent something out and make passive income, real estate was the first way to go about it, because we were tired of living not paycheck to paycheck, but like in a sense, we're always living on a budget. We're getting 5% increase in salary every year, and we're like, this is not it, like at all. Like both of us have more so me, I have like this extravagant idea in my head of, I want to drive a really nice BMW, and I want to have a house on the water, and I want to do this and do that. And salary just wasn't going to cut it. So looking back at, honestly, all of my past bosses, and Jay too, your past bosses, and even your own family, who were the people who were most successful? They all had real estate. They all had rentals. They all were into something real estate related. So we just started reading a lot of books. Actually, I would turn the camera, but we just have a few books here that really like kicked us off. They're by Brandon Turner, Bigger Pockets type stuff. And from there, we joined local meetups. I remember the first time we went to a meetup. Remember, it was in the hood of Philly, like real, like bad area of Philly. We walk into like this abandoned school, and they were having like a real estate meetup. Knew nothing about anything real estate related, and we're sitting there, we're looking around, and that was the first time we really got out of our comfort zone.
But I think there was one thing especially that always stayed in the back of his mind, my mind, and it was those phone calls in the middle of the night. Oh, this broke. Oh, that broke. Oh, so we were like, okay, we were seeing all these obstacles come up, like, how are we going to raise enough money to, we had bought the first one. We went the, conventional way, went to a realtor, but quickly realized like, okay, now we have to come up with another 10%, 20%, whatever it may be for a down payment. So there was a lot of obstacles that we started to see, which led us to the way that we invest now.
Yep, exactly. It went from not wanting to do it to actually getting into doing it and buying a conventional way, to realizing that's another roadblock that we just hit, right? How are we going to continuously save money? Then we went to, and 2020 was perfect for us because we got to work from home, right? Getting back to your original question, if I ever get off track, please just guide me back. I'll just start going off. But
Oh, you're good. You're good. Keep going.
if with 2020, when we started working from home right around March, we didn't have our bosses looking over our shoulder, honestly. That's the honest truth. And we were able to divide our time a little bit more towards the stuff that we wanted to do, which was read, really make a lot of phone calls, dive into different things, act like we're a buyer and hire a realtor and go see a ton of houses that we're actually not going to buy, right? Like just really get our feet wet and feel warm. And then we finally, at the end of summer of 2020, we actually did pull the trigger and we bought a house in Philly, which was our first rental. And then that's when Jay said, we hit that wall of what are we going to do now? We want to do more of this. We like the income that we get. This was really fun and we see a future in it. How can we get to the next point? So I think you guys had Jen and Joe Delle Fave on your podcast. I think it was a couple months ago. They're actually our coaches. And that's where we learned everything from. So thanks to Jay. And I think it was February of 2021. So a total 1 year later, we didn't really make much progress that first year. We just bought a rental. We learned about real estate, but that was it. And Jay brought me to a virtual online meetup where we met Jen and Joe. They said that they were having a coaching program where they're going to teach creative finance, which we knew nothing about. And from there, we kind of hit it off with them. We joined their coaching program of April of 2021. And from there, that's where really our eyes opened.
Before you go any further, because we're definitely going to dive into, all the creative ideas and all of that. I really just want to take a rewind and remind all the listeners that exactly what you guys did is what everybody is always preaching. When you don't have the money, the first thing you do is you get the knowledge because all you have is time. So you started reading the books and then you were like, hey, this really interests us. Let's go to a meetup. And you said you were uncomfortable. You got into that uncomfortable space and you were networking with other people and probably realizing like, if they can invest in real estate, like I'm sure I can figure it out, like not necessarily judging people, but judging people like, hey, I should be able to do this too. We're a paralegal and accountant. We can figure this out. And then not only after you did that, you started taking action and getting that first property, which is the biggest hurdle in your whole real estate investing journey, is just actually taking the leap and buying that first property, which you did during some of the most uncertain times, which was the beginning of the pandemic. And then you hit that hurdle and you were like, we want to do this more. How do we do this? And you said the quickest and best way is to find a mentor and a coach to teach you the ways that you need to know. Since you already got to that first rental point, you understood the numbers, you understood that you needed to scale, and you were looking for a specific niche on how to grow your business. And that's what you guys did. So tell us, what that whole program did for you and a little bit of those creative ways, because if anyone who hasn't listened to that, we're going to dive in right now on what the Delle Faves do, but it's extremely interesting and I would love to talk and dive down into that a little bit more. So continue on.
So I'm just going to jump the gun and say that we were both able to walk away from our jobs in just 1 year. That is what, the mentorship with them did.
That was actually how I was going to start it off too, was we started off personally, I was never cool with paying for a mentor. I'm just keeping that real up front, where when we were originally saying like, let's pay for a mentor, Jay was like, we want to get somewhere, we want to go fast. Because I always like to go everywhere fast. I have no patience, right? So she was like, if you want to go fast, then we have to do this. YouTube University ain't gonna get you there, right? It may get you some of the way, but you have to piece it together. And at that point, you have to, it's going to take time. So you either pay for your time or the time
Pay to play.
Yeah, exactly. Pay to play. That's the way.
Mhm.
So when we started, we told Jen and Joe we want to quit our jobs by 30 or 35. We were 24 then, right? I think, yeah, we're
Oh,
24,
wow.
turned 25. So they looked at us and they said, "You're gonna do it in about 2 years." And I laughed. I was like, "Yeah, you're lying, right?" So
Some sort of sales pitch to trying to reel you in.
yeah, I was like, "Look at this guy, you're lying." And then lo and behold, we really, after the first few months of being with them, we knew nothing about creative finance or anything like that, and we started to get our business in kind of in order and really start to build it up. And me and Jay looked at each other and we said, "Well, if we do want to quit our jobs anytime in the near future, what is it that we have to do?" So we actually, me being an accountant, I like spreadsheets. I like to see stuff on paper. So I put together a spreadsheet of like all of our expenses. And in my mind, the first thing I think of is income, expenses. That's how much money I have to play with, right? So I knew our income wasn't going to go up really right now. We're working jobs. How can we cut our expenses? So what do? We broke our lease. So we started with Jen and Joe in April. In June, we broke our lease at our rental and we moved in with the expectation of finding a multifamily where we can house hack to cut expenses. But we didn't realize that we were playing in the hottest market in the past decade, right? So we couldn't find jack squat. So we wind up moving in with my mom
For 6 months.
for 6 months.
You look so happy.
So, and worked out of her hot garage. That's where we set up our work from home office for the summer of 2021. And that's really where, in that garage, is where we built Roman for Homes. We worked our full-time jobs. And then that's where a lot of the sacrifice came in. So what I wanted to say for everybody like watching is there's like a ton of sacrifice that goes into building a business. Like we still were in year 1.5 and we're doing well, but there's like, while all of our friends have houses down the shore for the summer, on the Jersey Shore, and they're partying, like we're not really doing any of that because we have a goal that we want to hit. So in 5 years, we could be on a nice big boat down the shore.
I think something that you're hitting on that is super important is not just the financial aspect of sacrifice, but the societal expectation side of that, because people have these expectations as a paralegal in a law firm and with an accountant, you're going to be living more extravagant lives. You guys started off in a high rise and you walked away from a lot of that, and that that disconnect from that identity that you were working towards and that you were building serves as like a disconnect, and it's a stressful thing to actually step away from that, and that's a hard thing to sacrifice because you're really changing lanes. And I think that's just a testament to you guys seeing a brighter future and what that sacrifice today will build for you like down the road.
Absolutely. It's been tough. Everybody says that we've got it all. You're crazy, you're stupid, you just spent all this money on college and you quit your job.
So what are you doing? And once you tell them, they go dead silent.
Then it's been, but that's where like you have to believe, like we believe in ourselves. I mean, there's days where I'm overwhelmed. There's days where she's like, "Why are we doing this?" But that's normal. I think that's part of it.
Furthermore, you're surrounding yourself with Joe and Jen, and then going to the real estate meetups and putting yourself into those circles with those people that are going to be supportive of you too. And that's super important for everybody else to do who's listening, who's looking for that motivation. If you're not getting it in your immediate circle, you need to break through that and get into those circles for those people that are going to help you get to the next level.
1,000%. And let's remind everybody, one of the main reasons that James and I started this podcast was to create that circle, because we weren't experiencing it and getting it, because James moved away from his entire family and friends, and I'm kind of in the same boat as you guys, where a lot of family and friends, they now, are surprised and happy for everything that we've been able to build. But at the time, there's same thing. You're crazy, and you can't really tell people what you're doing because they just don't understand it. And it's you got to like kind of build your own circle, and see through that BS, really. And sounds like that's what you guys have continued to do. So I freaking love it. Love it, love it, love it. So let's start talking about some of these deals, man. I mean, hey, what kind of deals were you closing in your mom's hot garage while you're working your W-2s,
Yeah, man. So the first deal we ever did, the first off-market deal we ever did, we did in the garage. It was a tiny cash deal. Our first deal ever was a cash deal, even though we do most creative. We wholesaled it and we made a $6,000 assignment fee. The check really didn't mean jack crap to us. It just was that like feeling like, oh my God, like we just got a seller to say yes to a deal. We found a buyer and like we did the whole process. That was probably, I remember that day super vividly. And I remember watching The Wire come in and I told Jay, I was like, this is the best day ever. We're really doing it. And from there, that just catapulted me and Jay to that level of like, we can do this. We're going to do it. And then a couple of months later, we wind up locking down our first creative deal, which was really awesome. We wound up keeping it. So the way that we did that deal was we found him through Facebook Marketplace. He was a for sale by owner, Facebook Marketplace. We reached out to him, and Jen and Joe, as part of the mentorship, I mean, we have a script and everything like that. So we know what to say, how to say it. Jay ran the whole script on him, got him on a phone call. And then we both negotiated it together, and the seller sold us the house on what's called a wrap mortgage. So a wrap mortgage is where you take the loan of the home subject to, so you take over their existing payments, and his loan was only for $30,000, but he wanted to sell his house for $130,000 to us. So all of his equity we put in a promissory note with 0% interest and 0 payments. Just it has a balloon in 5 years. So we got that, and he originally wanted $30,000, but Missy May over here walked him down to $5K. So we bought that house. It was a 5-bed, 2-bath, completely remodeled. That's one thing that we actually look for, is we look for pretty houses. Honestly, we don't really like fixer-uppers. Most of the houses that we do keep are turnkey, ready to go. It was 5-bed, 2-bath with a 2-car garage. And that house cost us about $8,500 with closing costs to buy it. And then about 2 months later, me and Jay, we sold it on a lease option and collected a $15,000 down payment. So we basically, we like to call it, we burr ourselves without thanks. So we use option fees to get all of our money back, and we have an infinite cash on cash return. So that was our first creative deal we ever did.
Yeah.
That was back in 2021.
Yeah.
There is a ton to unlock there. James, I know you're dying to ask some questions. I'm dying to ask some questions. You go ahead and jump into this one.
You guys were saying something really interesting. You don't like to go for the ugly houses. You're going after the pretty houses, yet you're finding something that is wholesale material and something just like not lining up when you're thinking about it. When you're thinking about a wholesale deal, you might think of something that's distressed in condition or something like that. Was the seller going through something that kind of motivated them to want to sell it under these conditions? Or, what was the situation for the seller?
So he had just gone through a divorce. So the house was a part of a divorce, and he just didn't want to deal with it. He already had moved out.
I think it was vacant, right?
Yeah.
It was vacant.
And he just didn't want to deal with any of the upkeep or anything like that. And he didn't want to put it on the market. He didn't want to pay the commission. So
Yep. All he cared about was his price. The cool part about it was that his price, our big thing that we always tell all of our sellers is we can pay your full asking price as long as you can do terms. And if not, then cash. Obviously, we discount it. But most of the time, if the terms make sense for us and the terms maybe make sense if we assign that deal for a buyer, we can pay their full asking price. So this guy was asking $130. We paid him $130. but he also built in like 60K of free equity in there. So when we sold it to our tenants, we upcharged it. We sold it to them for 180. So we bought it for 130, sold it to them for 180. So when they cash us out in 3 years, we'll get that back end check too.
While you're making monthly cash flow.
While we're making, so we typically, with a lease option, you make money 3 ways. And that's the reason that we do it, because instead of us getting a big multifamily and we could do a value add and burn ourselves out and make a ton of cash flow, with this, we capitalize on a little single family house. We get a front end check, which is kind of like an assignment fee. We get monthly cash flow where we either charge market rent or we give them the option to pay over the rent. So we actually make increased cash flow every month. And then their back end check is the spread between what we sold it to them for plus debt pay down, and what we bought it from the seller for. So it's a wild way. And we have, the best part about it, which I like, is there's no toilet calls because the maintenance is on them, with a part of a lease option. The tenant buyer, we see them as the owner of the house. So if they want to put a roof on, they want to put AC in, they can do that.
Yeah, because lease option, other people call it rent to own.
Yeah.
I think what really got me with Joe and Jen's model was that you see a lot of people out there offering low down payments, and that's where people get the negative connotation of what you guys are doing, is because some people's business model is to have people get in the houses for low down payments for them to make money and them not be able to buy the property in 2 or 3 years, and they get to keep the down payment and the cash flow and kick the people out of the houses, not pay any maintenance. So the fact that you guys are taking a larger upfront payment gives people, a more sense of security, gives them a better chance to be able to get out of the loan. And I'm sure they have also given you training on how to help people build their credit and recommend lenders and all of that, because the ultimate goal is not for you guys to keep the house. It's to have your, owners, your lessees, buy it out from you within or before that 3 year term, 2-year term, right?
Yep. That's the goal. So typically what happens is when we find a tenant buyer, we always ask for 10% of the purchase price from them, because where we get the 10% number from, it's typically with a conventional loan, and knowing that maybe they're going to have some credit issues, it's maybe anywhere between like 5% we're gauging, right? That they're going to have to put down for the house, and then closing costs, maybe another 5-6%. So we collect it up front. So when they go and apply for the mortgage, they don't have to bring anything to the table. They know that if they get approved, we already have that money. We're just going to credit their HUD form and make it easy for them. It's all about the people, really. We also have to make money, but it's nice to be able to like see that growth within a family.
Mhm.
That's probably been one of the biggest parts.
And that's really cool how that works. Because we didn't get into that detail when we were talking to them. So the idea is to get the down payment and the closing cost up front. So basically what they're doing is, are they refinancing out of you guys, or they're actually doing a purchase?
They are doing a purchase of the home. So it's not, what they do is we work with Movement Mortgage. So Movement Mortgage, once their credit gets to a certain level, typically a little bit above FHA standards, which is around 580 to 610, that's when we'll ask them to, if their credit usage is all good and all that stuff, that's when we'll ask them to apply. They apply, they do the full purchase from us, and then we tell the mortgage lender, based on all the stuff that we collected and documentation, that we already collected your down payment or their down payment and their closing costs. Here it is. And the mortgage company will credit their HUD form. So maybe they only have to bring 1,800, maybe nothing at all. So,
sometimes for like the transfer fees and all of that stuff. Mm-hmm.
And for
That's fantastic.
the screening, like we screen the tenant and they help them build their credit, basically educate them on how to build credit or repair their credit. So that's cool as well.
Yep. That's like the whole other realm.
Yeah.
Since we've been doing the rent to own, we are going on our third rent to own right now. We have one rental, 3 rent to owns, and then a duplex that we live in. But since we started until now, and I know a lot of people are like, how are you guys doing this in this crazy market? Because a lot of my friends who like understand real estate or think they do, maybe they ask, how are you doing this? How are you getting these deals with no money down and all this stuff? So our second rent to own, I think we got that only a few months later after the first one. And that lady, she had a home equity line of credit on her house, tapped it out, like took all of her equity out. And again, we honor what we say. We buy full price for your home. Her home was probably worth about 140, somewhere around there, and she owed 110 on her HELOC. And she knew that the condition it was in, it was not going to sell anywhere near that. And her cash offer, she were getting over for like 50 grand, 40 grand. So we told her, you leave the house the way it is, leave all your stuff in there, just move. We'll take over your payments and we'll buy your house. And she was like, or is this a joke? And we were like, no, this is actually what we're going to do. And we explained it to her and she loved it. We bought that house for, I think, 3 grand out of pocket. We were 3 grand. There was like 3,200 in closing costs. And we bought that house and we added it to the rent to own. So I think we made that house, we did it 3,200 down, 2,500 in a clean out, and like 3 months in holding costs. And we, from the option fee, we broke even and we got all of our money back again.
And so when you do the rent to own or the lease option, when you sign on with that, you already have their purchase price listed. Is that correct? Or is that negotiable, inside of those 3 years for the person who's leasing from you?
Gotcha. So typically what we do is up front, we'll build in, this is Jen and Joe taught us this because I was always a little bit confused about how it worked when we first started. But what we do is we look at what the comps are saying the house is worth right now. And if Screen the Tenant will tell us it's going to take them 48 months, however many months to get approved for a mortgage. And then we know that the average appreciation rate is like 3%. So we know, okay, 5 years from now when they can buy it from us, here's what the ARV is or the market value. We add, XYZ amount of percentage on top of that. And that's what the house will be worth down the road. So that's how we come up with our purchase price up front.
Gotcha.
Fantastic. That is so interesting. That's such an interesting strategy.
I love it. So tell me about your guys' pipeline. Like, how are you building out your leads coming to you? And what does your pipeline look like over the next 12 months for filling your deals? Because this is your business now. Like, you're doing this day to day to put some bacon on the table. So tell us about how you're filling your pipeline.
You want me to go?
Go ahead.
I feel like I'm just gonna keep yapping here. So you sure?
Go ahead, yeah.
So when we first started, this is honest truth, up until about 3 months ago, we did all free marketing, all through Facebook. Facebook groups, Facebook Marketplace, Craigslist.
We farmed all of our leads.
Yeah, we did all organic farming. And up until about June, we were doing 1 deal a month. We were pretty much assigning everything, creative, non-creative, the whole 9. And then right around June, when we both said we were going to go full time, we got into sponsored ads. And at that point, we actually got a CRM. We hired a marketing company to do some sponsored ads. And right now we're spending about $40, $50 a day, which converts into about 85 leads a week. So right now, this actually was our strongest month we've ever had. We did 6 deals this month as of yesterday.
Congratulations.
So, thank you. It's been a heck of a month, let's say that. It's been wild. but we really see progression. And I know, like, one of the main things that we know now, we did not know this up until very short time ago, that it's important to track what's called KPIs, so our key point indicator. So Jay is extremely good with organization. Me, I not my forte. So what we do is I will, like, our CRM tracks how many leads we have come in and stuff like that, and then Jay helps with going through figuring out how many calls we did, how much that converts into an offer, or and our offers are our closing calls. From those closing calls, how many go to a contract, right? So we really broke it down, and we now know that 50 leads breaks is about 10 or 5 closing calls. And for every 10 closing calls, we have a deal. So we know 100 leads a week, which is our goal, converts to 10 closing calls, converts to 1 contract. So that's where we're at, and we figured out the dial now. So
And do you feel that dial would change if you just funneled more money into the marketing? Because, you know, you said you're spending about $40 to $50 a day. So let's say that's around $1,400 a month, $350 a week to get 85 leads, but you need 100 to close, you know, to really get like 1 deal. So have you thought about, you know, now that you've had your best month ever and you got 6 deals, have you thought about turning up that dial a little bit on the marketing aspect to see if those KPIs match the same?
So absolutely. So 80 leads are basically the ones running with the sponsor. We also have a lot of comments that come through, and people, and like referrals. We do get a lot of referrals as well. Where it's just like we constantly put it out there what we do, and people are like, oh, here, I have this one, like I have this dead lead, or I have, you know, whatever it may be. So that adds to it. But to answer your question, absolutely, we would definitely consider upping the marketing. I think right now what we're focusing on is kind of building our team and being able to transfer our knowledge and our processes to someone else, so we can start, you know, pulling back and working on the business a little more.
Yep, that's the thing. It's like we can turn up the dial, but then a lot of those leads may go to waste because a couple of our acquisitionists had left. Now it's me and Jay. So we actually turned it down a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And right now we realize that everybody has your strengths and your weaknesses. Our weaknesses, and I think it stems from maybe just not being in management roles at our jobs. We never got to that point. We left before we did, was leadership skills. And we realized one of the downfalls is that our leadership skills, we know how to do all the work, but we don't know how to like properly portray that to the next person. And that's really what we're learning. We joined Tiffany High's mentorship, like our 2-day workshop program, and she's really teaching us about leadership and everything like that. So
yeah, I think personally, I think that you really have to have your system. So yes, our acquisitionist left. We do have someone that works on the dispo side, and we do have a transaction coordinator.
mhm.
But being able to kind of take what we've learned and create roles within like the acquisition side of it, because yeah, you have people who field the leads, but then you also need people to qualify them, or you know, you need the closer. So it's really important to have your processes set, and taking a step back and us going into that role has really shown us maybe the holes that we have in that side of it.
Yeah.
It's putting those standard operating procedures in place, so you can basically plug and play anyone, and it's all there. Like, hey, as long as you follow this right here, you can do this job, you know, and then you find out if it's a right fit because of the person, not because of the process.
Exactly.
So I like that. I like that you're dialing it back a little bit. Go ahead, James.
Let me ask you guys this. Are you, when you start putting people into the seats to fulfill some of these roles, do you have any kind of software that you're going to be using that you've already picked out to kind of delegate and manage these tasks? I know some people like use like Monday.com or like Asana or something. Have you guys looked into any of that?
So we use actually the two things that we use our CRM, which is called REI software. And inside of there, we delegate tasks on a daily basis, and it sends them a text.
What I like is having the CRM or technology do a lot of the, I guess, like the mundane work, the very easy, simple tasks. And then you as whatever your role is, you are to one thing. Like your task is to do X, Y, or Z. And that's it. And then the system does everything else.
Yeah. And that's the other thing that we use is Google Chat. Inside of Google Chat, and this is, I think, because we're kind of young, it's a young business, and instead of like jumping in and buying all these softwares and doing all this stuff, we're trying to work with what we have, and make sure that if we can do it with this system, when we transfer to a system that's easy, our lives are going to feel like we're living on a cloud. So that's really what we're working with, is just getting down. Okay, we assign a task to you here. We do this, we do that, and then eventually get to the next level.
It just comes to show that you don't need all the nooks and crannies to be able to do it.
Yep, exactly. When we started, and we did have a team before the CRM, we had a transaction coordinator, we had 2 acquisitionists, and we had a dispo person. We were doing everything with Slack, daily meetings, and a pen and paper. Super old school.
Well, I mean, that's all it takes to get a deal done. You don't have to overcomplicate it. Real estate is a profession as old as time, and you can do it with pen and paper, literally. So, the technology shouldn't be something holding anybody back from getting into this and doing their first deal.
Yeah, and it's the creativity too. I mean, that's the beautiful part that I love about real estate is the nice part about real estate is as long as 2 people agree to the deal, it's a deal. It doesn't matter really how much money you bring. You got to pay your taxes and insurance and that kind of stuff. But as long as 2 people are in agreement, like real estate, it can be as creative as possible. And that's what you guys have figured out and have turned into, this business. And I'd really like to know, like, what's the ultimate goal with this business? Like, is there a certain number that you have that you're trying to hit on a monthly basis, a yearly basis? Like, let us know what that, what that dream is.
Oof, that is a loaded question. And
we just had this conversation literally 2 weeks ago.
And I think right now the answer will be, and we'll tell you, but it's always evolving. I feel like we're always going back to it and looking at it and saying, okay, we're here, but what is it? What really is it that we want to get to? And so we recently just did like review it and ask ourselves.
Yeah, we saw a couple things. We're very we're getting to the point where we want to grow. We want to automate a lot of stuff. We want to have a streamlined process. And it made us realize, well, I think we want to run this like a true business, not maybe corporate style, but we want to make sure that this isn't an entity that runs itself. And our vision is for this thing to grow into possibly an office setting. We may have an office eventually. That is something that me and Jay have been shooting around. And to really make it into a full-blown company, not the 3rd bedroom in our house type thing. We've been saying that for a while now, and really we want to nail it down. We want to have certain roles. We want to have company outings. We want to really be that, have a corporate vibe, almost like it. And it's kind of a weird thing because we left the corporate world.
Yeah, I was just gonna say it's you guys just left everything you're trying to build right now. But I think that's kind of the difference though, is you weren't leaving the office environment, you were leaving the environment where you didn't have equity, control, and stake in what you guys were doing day to day. And you guys might have seen things happening that maybe you wanted to influence and control. We just didn't have the power and authority to. So ultimately, you know, what you guys are building is that work environment that you guys would love to wake up to and come to work every day. And, you know, that's totally cool. I know a lot of investors come full circle on that. You know, they try to leave corporate America, they start doing real estate or whatever other business venture, and then they come back successful, and they're kind of at the top of where they left.
Yep. Yeah.
So I guess I want to say, like, in terms of doors, I don't think we really like, yeah, we look at the number of doors because that's passive income. But when we look at the goal that we have for this business, is like to build it into an entity. So like we said, our model is, you know, rent to own or lease option. So we constantly know that we're buying and we're selling them. We're buying and we're selling them.
We right now, what we do on a monthly basis. So we did say we had 6 contracts this month, but what does that look like? We don't keep all 6. So they were a mix between 2 cash deals, 2 straight seller finances, and then 2 subject twos. So what me and Jay have been looking for in our buy box recently is what we keep is typically low money down or no money down, 0% interest seller financing for very long terms, or very long-term subject to type stuff. And then the rest, we just assign it out. So what me and Jay really put it down pen and paper. And this is, again, weird because we said it from the beginning, we do not want to be a wholesaling company. That's what we kind of turned into. But it's okay because we have these deals that come in, and if we don't assign them, it's kind of just money being thrown away. So I think about 70 to 80% of what we get right now, we assign, whether it's creative, cash, and then anything that fits that little model that can be a very good lease option, we keep. So this month we kept 2, and the rest we assigned off. So
it sounds like, you know, you guys are trying to build not only a personal lifestyle that you want, but you really want to build that business lifestyle that you know you're looking for when you're saying, you know, you want to have the commercial space, you want to have the people that are working with you, working, you know, not just for you, but helping build, you know, something that you can be proud of, you know, and have a sense of, you know, pride and ownership in. And it's not necessarily about the money, it's about the journey and building a successful business. Because, you know, people could answer that in a ton of different ways. The first thing you could have said was, you know, well, we're looking to make 20 grand a month, you know, or have $1 million business. You didn't mention money at all, which I think is fantastic, because a lot of people think that all investors are money focused, and you guys haven't said that at all. So I think that's great. I think one of my biggest questions is, though, are you going to try to find a commercial space subject to or seller or creative financed to have your office and maybe some, you know, rentals above it?
Oh yeah.
So right now we have been in talk with a gentleman that we bought our first rental from. His name is Willie. And so shout out to my guy, Willie. I love that man. He has an 8-unit building not too far away from here, with a commercial space at the bottom. And he keeps telling us, when I'm ready to retire, which is in the next few years, I'd love to sell it to you guys. I know, because he told me his finances, that he just refinanced the thing and really pulled all of his equity out. So me and Jay thinking, this is the perfect opportunity. And we did plant the seed, and he did say, that actually sounds kind of cool, that when he's ready, we'll just take over his loan and he can retire and be done. And we'll have an 8-unit with basically our office at the bottom. And it's only 3-4 blocks away. So we're planning, we're getting there. Yep. And we're just like, we're planting seeds. We're seeing how it's going. Today we actually had a conversation, me and Jay, where we may start doing like once a week, just rent an office for now, like with WeWorks or something, and just test it out and see if we can get people. Like, we're going to hire people locally, and we're going to have people meet maybe once, twice a week, and see if we actually do like it. And if the people like it, because we haven't been in an office in years now. And if we do, let's really just take that step. And if not, well, we know now. And
Exactly. I think, and that's exactly what those spaces are for. So, I mean, that's fantastic. James and I literally last night and yesterday were just talking about kind of doing the same thing. So that's really fantastic. I think we kind of already know this, but I'd really like to hone down on this one and talk about your why and what's really motivating you, because we've got the business part that you want to build, but what's really motivating you guys personally? What's driving that why personally?
You know.
okay, so really it's family. Both of our families growing up. So my dad was in the car business, and he was never really around. And I knew that that was not something that I wanted to do with my family. I wanted to be able to eat dinner. I wanted to wake up, and like when my kids wake up, I'm actually home. Like, my dad would leave when it's dark, come home when it's dark, and we'd see him for an hour, and that was it. And my mom, she was a stay-at-home mom, and I saw like how stressful that was. And then like it's
Yeah, so I was born in Puerto Rico. My parents came here with absolutely nothing. So just seeing them continuously struggle for a better future for me and my sisters and the whole family, it is something that has always stuck behind me. And giving back to the family is also something big on both of our sides.
Don't get it twisted though. Her parents are like crazy entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
I have always been like just mind boggled by the things that they do. Everything that you can think of, like they'll eat something and be like, we can make a business out of this and sell it. And they do. And then they're successful. And I'm like, this is craziness.
Well,
Like
tell
her
us
parents,
give us some examples. What are some of the things that they're doing entrepreneur? Because it's really cool, because you'll find two people have different perspectives of where they came from, and they want to go down the same path together. Some people see things that they don't like and they want to change, and some people see things that they do like and they're trying to emulate for the benefit that they had for their families growing up. So what's your family doing that is good as far as entrepreneurial pursuits go?
So in high school and part of college, me and my mom opened up like a little empanada like hut thing, and we would actually sell them just on the weekend.
dude, this was crazy. The first time I went, the line was so far down the block. I was like,
Everyone knew
what am I
us.
doing wrong?
Oh, that sounds delicious. And it's like
Yeah.
dinner time. I'm like, I love empanadas. Oh,
We would sell out within 4 hours, and we would make about 1,000 to 2,000 of them. So at $2 each, if we made 2,000, I mean, you can make the math.
I know what you can put on the first floor of your commercial space of that 8-unit now.
mm-hmm.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, if the creative financed wholesaling business doesn't work out, empanadas is the future.
Yeah.
So we did that for a little. My dad actually opened up his car hauling business, so he does that. And then my mom does transport, her own businesses, dispatching drivers, and then she brings them back.
So that's really interesting. So you went to college, because your parents are probably like, we don't want you to go through the same struggles that we've gone through, owning your own business and all of that. And then here you are, like a year later, you're like, hey, just so you know, I'm totally going to be an entrepreneur like you guys. Like, how did what did they say with that? Were they happy for you, or did they, what did that go like?
That's a good question. They were all for it. They are definitely business owners. And my mom actually I didn't go to college for business. I went for criminal justice. And I went into the lawyer setting. My mom like immediately saw that, you're not happy. And I said, no, and I don't think law school's for me. And she was like, well, what are you going to do now? What's your plan? And I told her, I said, we're going to do this. And she's like, go for it. And there are many times that she's like, I want in. What are you doing? I want to buy. I want to do this. So.
And my parents were the opposite. My parents are the older generation. They're in their 60s, while Jay's parents are a little bit younger. So the way they view things, like my parents are like, you go to high school, you go to college, you get a job, you use your brain, you don't work with your back type thing. And I told them that I'm out, I'm quitting. And they were like, what are you doing? You're throwing your life away. You just worked hard. Like, you have a great job. And my dad did have his own business at one point, and it didn't work out. So he went back to the car business, and my mom was pretty much just stay-at-home mom a lot of the time. She works with BNY Mellon now as like an HR person, but her mindset and my dad's mindset was always like, you get a good job, you're stable, you're comfortable, you're good. And I knew that wasn't, and like seeing her family, like they literally came here, they didn't even know the language, and now they have all these businesses. And to me, it's crazy. And I know if they can do it, we can do it.
And I do want to say this, my mom, she still has a W-2 while having her business. She kind of partnered with the W-2 because they knew she had that entrepreneurial mindset and what she could bring. So they work together now, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
Just more evidence that anybody can do it. You know, you don't have to know the language. I think we were talking with who were we talking to, Patrick, about the store with someone who was Polish, came here, knew 2 words, and then ended up buying all the real estate that they had.
Yeah, that's the podcast that's going to come out, the one right before you guys. So if anyone, that's listening to yours hasn't listened to the one before this, go back and listen, because that was crazy. But yeah, he came over here, him and his brother, and owned a 23-unit motel. They had a motel, hospitality, didn't know English. Yeah. Like he said, they literally had like a little Polish to English little dictionary thing, and they knew like a couple words. Right. And that was it. And ran a successful business.
Exactly. It comes down to grit and confidence, and you can make it happen. Just business or real estate, for sure. So that's awesome. I want you guys to tell us, I know we addressed this a little bit, but on your path for the business that you're building an entity, something that's going to be self-sufficient, you can plug and play people. And we touched on this a little bit. What are some of the obstacles you guys are actively thinking through to get to that level? And just elaborate on that a little bit for
us. People management. This is, again, we just had like this whole weekend. We took like a mini retreat, and we talked about a lot of things, and like, what are we going to do next? Like, where we want to go? And biggest things and obstacles that we see coming that we have to overcome if we want to get there is time management, people and leadership skills, and also understanding how to adapt. Right? Those 3 things. It has nothing to do with marketing. It doesn't have to do with how to talk to sellers. We can do all that. That's fine. But we'll always stay this little 3rd bedroom, mom and pop type store, maybe 3, 4, 5 deals a month. If we don't learn leadership, if we don't learn how to adapt, and if we don't learn how to time manage properly. And that's like what we're really focusing on now. We call it phase 3, we're flipping our life, because I know in flips you guys have phases. We don't flip. Mm-hmm. And in phase 3, we're working on our leadership and people skills and management. And I think that is our next step to really get to where we want. Mm-hmm. Now, kind of getting into it, adapting, right? Like right now with the market changing, I think adapting for everybody in the real estate space is huge. And you guys kind of just touched on that, where, the friend or the brothers from Poland, they came over and they adapted and they made it work, and Jay's family. Now it's the same thing for us. We all have to adapt because we don't know what's coming. And we're getting to this point now where people are getting foreclosed on again. There's expired listings. Like, we're working with people who are $30,000 behind because it was COVID now. So COVID was great for a lot of people and excelled, but it also killed a lot of people in the sense where they couldn't afford things. And sadly, in a way, it kind of benefits us as real estate investors now coming off of that swing, because we're getting the tailwind of everything that happened during COVID, and it's starting to solidify and go down a path now. And one of my favorite deals we ever did, we just wrote the contract up on last Thursday. Mm-hmm. And that deal was basically the epitome of what happened during COVID. What's to come next from the creative world, and how if you don't know creative financing, I think now is the time to learn. So this gentleman, he had a house and he reached out to us in May. He was behind like 15, 16 grand in payments. And we were going to take his house and buy it on a wrap mortgage, like we talked about earlier. And we realized that as an entry fee doesn't make any sense. What can we do? So we did some research and we found that he can do what's called a loan modification. So the gentleman, we walked him through it. Our transaction coordinator pretty much held his hand, and we learned all about loan modification. So he was able to take all the payments that he had that were backed, put it on the back of the loan, make trial payments for a few months with the bank until they told him it was okay and they approved him and they said, okay, this is good. They gave him new loan terms, a whole new loan, everything with a new interest rate. And now that it's complete and we got the final okay, we now wrote it up with all the new terms, everything, and we're now going to take his house subject to with the new loan with no money down. Because originally we are going to have 30 or 17,000 down. Now we have just closing costs because we were able to help him. So we got him out of pre-foreclosure. We got him out of ruining his credit for the rest of his life. And then we learned how to get a deal with now no money down. And we're working on another one actually right now. And we're seeing it's just bang, it one after another. It's at least one every month now that we're getting.
So just like remembering that like wholesaling is a tool, creative finance is also a tool that you can use when helping sellers and getting deals.
Yep.
Gotcha. Very cool. So what incentivizes the lender to go through this loan modification? Is it that they get a whole new loan with fees, or they're getting out of the old payer? Like what incentivizes the lender to go through with this?
So from what we get an authorization of release from the seller, and which allows us to talk to the bank on their behalf. And a lot of these bankers say we don't actually want to foreclose on the houses because we basically we lent the money out. We are going to now lose money by it sitting, and we have to hold on to this property with maintenance. It's going to sit there and we're not going to take care of it. Right. And then they have to go and resell it. They said they'd rather help the guy out, get the loan current. They increase the interest rate when they do this. Mm-hmm. So they now, because it's whatever the current interest rate is at the time, and it incentivizes the bank because his loan was at a 2.5. Now it's at a 5.1. So the bank is now getting double their interest on another 30-year term. So he only had like 16 years left. Well, now they stretched it again for another 30 years. So his payments are lower, but now they're getting a whole nother mortgage. So that's really, yeah.
We're definitely coming into a market where opportunities like that hopefully are going to be more prevalent. It's changing market for sure. Interest rates are going up. People are going to be a little bit squeezed on their payments. And, to have the bank on your side essentially to facilitate this deal, huge plus. That's amazing. So, yeah, Patrick, you got something?
I was just going to say, and I've been telling people for the last couple months, like these creative financing opportunities, these seller carryback opportunities, these seller financing opportunities, the current state of the market is now the opportunity where they're going to start coming into play because investors can't afford those bigger down payments, or investors can't afford to pay the purchase prices because of the new interest rates and how high it's going to be on their cash flow. So the deals don't make sense. So you have to get creative to make the numbers work. And like you said, hey, if the terms work, the price can work. It really comes down to the terms. And we all know sellers want a specific price, and that's all that matters to them. As investors, we should want specific terms because that's all that matters to us to reach our cash flow number, our cash on cash return number, our cash on equity number, whatever metric you're going after as an investor. And you should know this, you can create terms to meet those, metrics while paying full price like you guys have been doing. And that's freaking awesome. And James, I think this is a perfect segue into
the big four.
So take it away, James.
Perfect. So I want to hear something from both of you guys. Don't give me the same answer, but I want you guys to tell me something that you do that feels like a cheat code on your path to financial independence, and your financial journey. Something that just feels like a hack or cheat code for your journey.
Why do you say me when you
Go
don't know
ahead.
the answer?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
We can't have the same answer.
Yeah, that's fine. I'll come up with a new one.
So
One of you will be on
honestly,
the spot.
honestly, I think the biggest cheat code for us is just, it really was having a coach. We would have never seen certain things that we do without having a coach and without like seeing their success, their failures, where we learn, and that confidence that it brings. Because when you don't know something or you're unsure, and I can call up Joe or Jay can call up Jen or Joe and just be like, guys, I don't know about this, or can you just double check these numbers? Like, I'm not sure. And then as they say, yeah, these numbers look great. What are you talking about? Or tweak this. That confidence that you have, that was the ultimate cheat code for us, honestly. I think for me, that was for me, at least. I don't know about you.
From a couple's standpoint, I would say having each other and having two different personalities, because we are very different. I'm more reserved and ask questions, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna challenge you in every step, and he comes at me with the punches, and I'm like, all right, cool. But then, when I'm reserved and he's like, it works, that's kind of like pulling me into that uncomfortable place. So a cheat code is really having us together, like your partner next to you. I think for us.
Well, I think that's super valuable. And I know Patrick and I shared this same sentiment. It's great to have someone in your corner to work on your business with and to bounce ideas off of, because, left to your own devices, sometimes you stray down a weird path, maybe not for the best, maybe not the best direction. So it's always great to have somebody in your corner to work with. Going off your first answer, Mike, I want to ask you, we had talked about you being adverse to the coaching up front. I just want to ask, like, how much have you guys invested into your coaching so far? Total. You don't have to give us like an amount for any specific programs, but like if you guys have been doing retreats or if you guys have been doing these coaching and mentorship programs, like how much have you guys conceptually invested into yourself through these programs?
I think since the start, it's been about 20 grand.
Yeah.
As we sit right now, about 20,000.
Okay.
And
has it been worth it?
how
Oh yeah, and we made it back like probably within the first few months, just because we think about it, we're like, oh my god, it's so much money, and or not up front, but it's just over periods of time, and we've made it all back, and we've made quadruple out of whatever amount that we've made. You know what I'm saying? Like, it was so worth it for us to invest that time. The way I think about it, and the way after a while, like after I got a taste of like coaching, and I'm like, this is really, it's getting us somewhat fast. I was like, I want more. Let's do more. I want to do this. I want to do that. And she's like, slow down. Like, I told her, I said, but we just spent $200,000 in 4 years on college. I said, we bought a house like for something we don't use anymore. So, and then both of us were like, you know what? That it's the truth though. Like, we go to college, we're taught at 18 years old to sign papers for a mortgage, and then we leave and we want to start something of our own, and we're afraid to spend 5, 6, 7,000. And I think it's just a programming thing. We got to reprogram our heads a little.
Exactly. And I was going to say, like, what do you think the timeline would be if you hadn't done any of the coaching? Like, would you be 2 years away from where you are now, a year away from where you are now? Like, if you had to think about it.
I'd say more.
Honestly. I don't know if we would have even got to anywhere, between frustration, discouragement, maybe just like, that was our biggest thing when we started. Without having a coach, we were so frustrated and discouraged and nervous to do anything, and anxious because we knew we wanted to get somewhere. I remember us sitting at our desks at the other apartment. Yeah. I remember us saying, like, what are we going to do? Like, we don't even know what the hell we're doing. We have no idea. Like, how are we going to do this? And
Quitting our jobs wouldn't even be a question. So
Man, that is such great advice for everyone out there, and that's why we started this podcast as well, to hear stories from people that are crushing their goals or know that they have goals and are doing everything that they can to achieve them, whether that is paying someone 5 or 10 grand for coaching and mentoring, any of that stuff. So I think that's perfect. And that gets us right into our next question, which is, we call this one resources. So are there any other specific books, podcasts, or influencers, people out there that you would recommend our listeners go and check out that have kind of shaped your financial independence investing journey?
I see Mike reading off the titles to his books right now.
Yeah,
Hey, show us what you got. Hold them up for the camera, man.
Yeah,
Yeah.
man, show us what you got.
So these, I mean, so we read totally different books. I'm like a numbers guy. Jay is all about process and like self-growth, and that's where a lot of the stuff comes together. But I think this was the first one we ever read. Both of us together.
You got to read it out for us for the podcast. So what's that book? Who's it by?
It's called The Book on Rental Property Investing. It's by Brandon Turner. So he, if you don't know who Brandon Turner is, he's top guy at Bigger Pockets. And it really breaks down for anybody who's interested in rental investing, very basic terminology, the simple process, and it makes it, I'm going to say it honestly, it's like the rental investing guide for dummies. And it really brought it down to our level when we first started. Like, what is this? How do we do this? What we have to set aside money for reserves, such as like property management. Like, we didn't realize any of that stuff. And that's really what this book goes into, and it explains it now at a higher level. Oh, man, I don't have the book in here with me. It's about leadership, and the one that we've been reading. Oh, here it is. These two.
So it's How to Win Friends and Influence People.
Dale Carnegie, my man. That's a big one that we've been reading right now. And the thing is that we read together. So when I read, I don't comprehend. Like, I have to read the thing like 3 million times. And Jay likes to read out loud. So I listen as she reads, and we've been reading. See, dude, it's crazy. It's just, and this book is about how to deal with people. So being a real estate investor, especially in wholesaling and stuff like that, and we're doing direct to seller, we have to learn the sales side of things. Now, Dale Carnegie is not teaching you how to be a salesperson, but what he's doing is teaching you how to deal with people. And as we said, management, people skills, all that is what we're looking for right now. And if you guys, anybody watching hasn't tried or started reading this, like 100% suggest it. It's an easy read, and we're halfway through and my mind's blown.
For any of our listeners, if you've heard one consistent theme that we brought up, it's real estate is a relationship business. And if you're going to look for a book to teach yourself how to kill it in business generally, real estate specifically, How to Win Friends and Influence People is a great resource for that, 100%, because you're going to learn how to communicate with the sellers or people on the other side of the transaction, whether you're with an agent or whatever, and resonate with them and get them to, most importantly, like you as a person, and not engage in this combative, like, fighting over making a deal. It's a collaborative experience, just like Patrick was saying earlier. We make terms work. This goes back to that 8-unit deal you were talking about. That guy wants to sell you the property just taking over the loan because he likes you. And I'm sure you picked up some tips from that book to make that relationship happen. That's fantastic.
Absolutely. And really, there has been such a change. So the way our business works in a dynamic standpoint is I do all the closing calls. So I do like the final, like, negotiating. And really, by reading this and working through it, it's made me change my whole process on how I do those closing calls. And by the end of them, I've noticed a bigger conversion rate, that we're actually getting more contracts because of people actually like me by the end. They like me by the end of it. And then I know that but we are, this is the last book that we're actually going through right now. John C. Maxwell, how to successfully lead people, or how successful people lead. And this one goes through like the 5 pillars of leadership. And that's, again, blowing my mind because I never thought about it in that light.
All of his books are fantastic books. Anything written by Maxwell is going to be a great leadership book and entrepreneur book. So all of them. That one particularly is very small too. So you should be done that one in like 2 days.
Yeah.
All right, guys. So we'll move on to our next question. We call this one the future you, and you can give us a collective one this time. For the first one, great to hear your respective answers. But for this one, I want you guys to tell us where your business and personal life is in 5 years.
5 years, good one.
Go ahead. You want me to go? Because again, we talk about all this stuff together all the time. We say in 5 years from now, we want to have an office space. We want to have a full like acquisitions department, dispositions department, and transaction coordinating department. And we want to have started a family at that point and our dream house and be financially free completely, meaning that like if we want to wake up and like not have to work, we have enough of passive income from units. We have a well-oiled wholesaling machine that's kicking up active income every month, and we can really do what we want and live in the owner's box of our company, meaning that we have managers, we have CEOs, or COOs and stuff like that, and we're the owners just getting a report on a daily basis, what's going on.
What a fantastic answer. And that leads us perfectly in to our last question, which is, where can people find you, reach out to you, and follow your 5-year journey to that success? So drop it, let everybody know where's the best way for our listeners to get in touch with you.
So Instagram is Roman with J,
and I'm Roman with Mike, ROMAN with Mike. That's our puppy. And on Facebook, you can get in touch with us. I'm Mike Scarpa.
And I'm Jae Morales.
And our business page is Roman for Homes. So any way you want to contact us, I'd love to talk. We did want to say that if there is anybody who wants to get into this and they want to do that coaching feel and they want to have some one-on-one, we are doing open enrollment starting in November. We are going to take on a select few students, maybe like 5 people.
And we are partnered with Jen and Joe. So everything that they've taught us, all their material, we use.
Yep, we have one big group that we do.
Gotcha.
That's fantastic. Well, guys, you know the drill. If you like this podcast, leave us a review. If you hate this podcast, leave us a review. We did have one person actually leave us a 1-star. So we need some more 5 stars to get our rate back up to 5. But check us out on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, all that good stuff. Leave us a review on the website at therealfi.com. And we'll catch you next time. See ya.
See you guys.
Thank you for listening to the Real FI podcast, where you learn from the investors that have lived the hard lessons for you. To connect with us during your pursuit of financial independence, be sure to join our community by following us on Instagram or emailing us at info@therealfi.com. If this content made you financially, mentally, physically, or spiritually richer, please make sure to leave us a positive review on your preferred content platform. Cheers to kicking the 9 to 5.